morning, you two. Look at
Good
these faces.
morning.
Good morning.
How are we doing? It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
You know, it is. Fall is here. Pumpkin spice lattes are everywhere.
Yeah, it's only 80 degrees in Miami, so crisp fall weather.
All right. Love that.
What's the humidity level? Still 70% or
Actually,
what?
that's the beauty of it. That's why it feels cooler because there's less humidity. So I guess this means I've adapted finally after 6 years.
It's finally about time.
Finally.
Speaking of pumpkin spice, though, this Nespresso pod is my favorite one that I've had so far. I'm not gonna lie. I just took a sip during the intro play. I was like, ooh, that was good.
Spice.
It's not pumpkin spice, but caramel. Just a chef's kiss. Anyways, how was your guys' weekend? We again kind of a slower.
You want to shout out that espresso thing real quick? Look at that beauty
one right there. That right there. Yeah.
Are you trying to get sponsored?
It is a sponsor. We got a special little shout out, which we're not like officially announcing anything because we're gonna wait till the Book Direct show where we can like showcase it in real life. But if you're an Airbnb host or a property manager and you love to have quality coffee stations at your properties for your guests, then you need to go sign up with Host GPO and get your coffee box because Good Morning Hospitality approves for sure.
We have a custom box just for the Good Morning Hospitality crew, which is pretty much all coffee based. But
yeah. So that's the sneak peek. But Brandy, you're going to be getting one here shortly.
I'm like, where's my box?
I was gonna say we got
left out.
Well, Jamie also feels very left out whenever we play the intro and his face isn't on it. So it's I gotta fix.
Who's running the show, anyways? Well,
I don't know, some amateur man. We have a horrible producer. He sucks. But anyways, now that we're back, how's your guys' week? Everything good, dandy.
Yeah,
life.
It was a good week, I think. I mean, and I had a nice relaxing weekend, tended to my plants. So,
well,
you know,
I was going to say, how was everything in Miami? I know you're probably tired of getting the question, but, Hurricane Ian, how has that impacted Sextant, you guys personally, like living there?
Yeah. I mean, Miami just somehow misses all of these hurricanes every year. Knock on so much wood. But I mean, we had to bring in all of the outdoor furniture, and it was very windy, and there was some rain and some flooding, but nothing close to what the West Coast got. So we're very lucky in that respect. And really the only impact on the business was some people couldn't get out, that were staying. And then some people had to move their stays because they couldn't fly in. But no, we were very lucky. So, yeah, we made it out unscathed.
Awesome. That's good to hear. I was that was definitely a little worried. I was like, oh, we're not gonna have Brandy this week. She's gonna be MIA. But you're alive and well, so that's good. But yeah, it's not been easy to look at what was it? Not Fort Myers, but is it Fort Myers?
Fort Myers, yeah. I mean, and Sanibel too. I have friends who have places there, and it's devastating hearing what's happened. Totally washed away.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, thoughts and prayers to everybody out there, for sure.
Yeah, it was
Michael.
It was what, 2 years ago that Burma had an event down in Marco Island. Is it Marco or Sanibel?
No. I remember there was what was the Verbo HomeAway conference? There was one of those on Marco Island in September a couple years ago, right in the middle of hurricane season.
It's the cheapest time for conferences in Florida, for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
a bit of a gamble.
Fingers crossed with Book Direct. And
I was going to say, knock on more wood because we're just hoping that, thank God Miami didn't get hit, but we have a property in Kissimmee. And thankfully, that little bubble that the neighborhood it was in, untouched, super thankful. But a lot of people couldn't make it because streets were flooded and a bunch of other stuff, power outages and craziness like that. So, yeah, hopefully we just have seen the last of that for this time of year. Would love to actually attend Miami's Book Direct show.
I think you're in the clear. Later in October is usually pretty safe.
All right. Well, you'll probably give
Old
or
stable
save
brandy.
I'd say save Damien a heart attack. I know that was like as we like came together to do this event, he was like the biggest worry. He's like, "Oh, Miami, I hear about hurricanes all the time," and I was like, "Oh, we'll
You're
be
not supposed to
fine."
say the H word.
Yeah, well, he did.
Yeah, well,
So.
your the venue that the show's at is like a couple blocks from our warehouse. So if it does rain, we'll just move it inside the warehouse. Less
I think that would be
elegant, but
fun.
functional.
Second story. Yeah.
That would be fun. That would be fun. Very cool. Well, speaking of destinations and all the things that happen inside of them, this is a fun conversation because I'm personally passionate about this. But before we go into the actual topic itself, we did see some news, and we want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at STR or STRs with a Z, shorttermrentals.com, for putting out the article about Guesty with some acquisition going out there the last week with the pickup of Kigo and Hiram. I'm guessing is how you say it. I was going to say Hiram, but I think it's Hiram. So yeah, a little bit of a spending spree, which I think we said was kind of expected when they did their fundraise. So do you guys think any particular reason why on Kigo? I'm kind of curious.
I'm also curious. That was the first, years ago now. I've gone through 4 different PMS migrations. So I've kind of I've touched them all at this point, it feels like. And Kigo was the first one, but it was before they had gone through, I think, like a major revamp, and we didn't even on board with them. So I'm surprised because I feel like they haven't been as much of part of the conversation. So I'm also curious. I don't know who has the insight on that.
I know a little bit about this deal.
Not surprised.
So, Kigo's been kind of they were a brainchild for RealPage to break into short-term rentals. And ultimately, it wasn't the right way for a multifamily company to break into short-term rentals. So RealPage brought in Migo and is going after actually what they're good at, which is multifamily software. So it made sense to kind of divest Kigo and focus on the multifamily product. So, for Guesty, it's a good footprint in Europe. Kigo's pretty strong over there, but I think it's a mutually beneficial deal. It wasn't a fire sale by any means, but it also wasn't, something that bid up the price into the atmosphere for the desire to have Kigo. So it's a win-win for all around. And congrats to those involved.
Yeah. Never had the product myself, but I heard about them when I first got into the industry 6 or 7 years ago. So good stuff. Glad they've had a successful sell. Sweet. So yeah, going into that was pretty much the main news. There's a couple other pieces of content around more IPOs. I think there's some companies that are talking about. I forget the name of who, but more trying to follow the success of Airbnb's IPO, which I think is kind of what we saw also when Airbnb went public. Everybody else then tried to go public, which it's kind of
has pretty much only worked out for Airbnb.
Yeah.
And even then, I think they're still down a little bit.
Yeah.
But everybody's down, so you can't blame them for that.
Yeah, 100%. Michael, do you want to bring up your interesting article?
Why don't you play that Chesky quote first?
All right, let's do that. We're gonna let Brandy take it away after this quick clip, because she did bring up this kind of a spark of an idea conversation. So let Brandy take it away. But here's a great clip from I was going to quote Michael, from our fearless leader, Brian Chesky. But yeah, not going to say that. All right, here we go.
Was a potato in the Idaho Country Fair. It was owned by the Idaho Potato Commission. And they're trying to dispose of this giant potato. What do you do with a 12-foot potato? This woman named Christy said, I'll take the potato off your hands and I'll dispose of it. But she didn't dispose of it. Instead, she turned it into an Airbnb. And this potato outside of Boise is now got, I think, like a 6-month waiting list. But, and people, I don't think that, like, I'm not saying potatoes are the future travel. I'm not saying that. But
That's
I'm not
the headline.
saying,
Please tweet it. Please share that.
but I'm not saying they're not the future travel either. So we'll have to see. But people actually do travel for that potato. It's ridiculous. It's crazy, and it's an extreme version of a more reasonable, rational point. That suddenly, for more people, an interesting home becomes the destination. Because the longer you're away from home, the more you want to be in a home. And maybe if you want to go somewhere for 2 days, you want to go to New York because you want to like see Broadway shows. But if you have to go somewhere for a couple weeks, maybe you want a yard, and maybe like you don't need to be in close proximity to like Broadway. You just need somewhere comfortable.
So interesting clip in the sense of, talking about the property becomes a destination. So I think Brandy, because what you brought up through your article that you found and kind of shared with us in our group chat was more around the experience too, I think, rather than just the property. So I'll kind of let you showcase that really quick before we dissect this statement.
Yeah, so in the current issue of Condé Nast Traveler, they have their predictions for the future of travel. And one of them that caught my eye was that sleeper trains will make a comeback. I have an IRL magazine.
Wow.
I know.
What is that?
I know.
We showed it.
Pretty old school. See?
Someone's almost 30.
I know. 6 more days. But the article was talking about how this kind of like there's this demand for these destinations that are also the experience. They want the slow travel, kind of the old world elegance that these trains had. So they're these sleeper cars or sleeper trains. They focus on Belmond, which and their European train services, which are usually like one overnight. And I think the one to Istanbul they're bringing back is 5 days. So it's like that really is part of your vacation, and you're specifically, that's obviously not the fastest way to get to wherever you're going, but it's all about this kind of lush luxury that I think is really appealing to people and has this charm that, obviously flying doesn't really have anymore. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. It's kind of taking us back in time a little bit, and where people are really picking these types of experiences because of that one destination. And this destination is a train, but that's, that's why people are willing to spend 10 grand a ticket to have an overnight train.
100%. Well, it's just crazy too, because and this will lead perfectly into Michael, but when I first got into vacation rental management, we had a castle. It was about 22,000 square feet in Washington State on 5 acres. And the thing about that was the thesis behind this investment for this real estate investor was that this is the destination. People are not going to come to Washington. They're not going to drive an hour and a half from Seattle just to go look at the pumpkin patch or to go do this and to go do that. They're going to come here for the castle. They're going to stay in the property, and they're not going to need to leave. They're going to have everything at their disposal. This is becoming the destination. People are not coming for, whatever else it might be. And he was 100% right. And I think, as Michael knows, and as Brandy knows as well, with sexting, with what you guys do on the property management side, that's the goal, right? I think that everyone has kind of had that in mind. Your property should be 100% the destination rather than the actual destination, if that makes sense. Yeah, people are coming to Miami, but do they ever want to leave their penthouse when they book with Sextant? No, they probably want to stay. So
throw massive parties in it, of course.
100%.
No part. There's never a party. No,
never.
Not in Miami.
Never. Not in Miami.
Yeah, look, I think it's part of a new wave of travel where going to Paris or going to London or New York is, I don't want to say played out, but COVID certainly changed traveler behaviors. And now it's about what looks good on Instagram, what stories you can bring back with you, and experiencing something different. It's really comes down to the experience. And you can just imagine people at your castle, Will, and rural Washington doing dorky night games or like,
Playing the
dressing up
huge
and
floored chessboard.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Just doing sword fights down the hallway.
Yeah.
But what Chesky said there, that interesting properties become the destination, is really the impetus of what we've built at Storied Collection, and we couldn't agree more. People want stories, they want Instagram, they want to experience something that they haven't, maybe some of their friends haven't. They can humble brag through their social medias, and there's this trend only is accelerating, with the train piece. I've slept on a sleeper train. It was an absolutely awful experience. I wouldn't recommend it. But to be fair, that was from Serbia to Bulgaria. So I don't know if there's
there's different classes, I think,
more
of sleeper
5-star
trains.
accommodations than that train. So it was. I think it's going to be a cool trend to watch. You have to be careful, though, to try and repeat, a potato in rural Idaho, right? There can only be so many potatoes in rural Idaho. But the good news for us at Storied is there's thousands of unique castles and manor houses with unique stories across Europe that, from the place where William Shakespeare got married to a Tudor home that Henry VIII owned. Like there's every property has a cool and unique history.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing is if, the potato, for example, like you can't have more potatoes. You can't replicate that uniqueness because then obviously it's not unique anymore. So I think that's the trap that maybe some people would be tempted to fall into, like trying too hard to find that really unique piece. So yeah, I think each of your lovely castles having its own backstory, and then the humble brag or not so humble bragging, the straight up bragging on the internet is a huge motivator. Like if you can say that you've got this whole castle that Henry VIII had married his 7th wife, it becomes more about your story also online.
Well, I was gonna say that one of my first kind of like real experiences, I think I've shared this on the podcast before a while ago, but like one of my first hospitality experiences into not just like short-term rentals, but was once I started with Marriott, I went to this boutique brand out in the Oregon coast, and they had not just a hotel, they had a restaurant, they had a brewery, they had all this extra stuff in the same city. And the cool part about it was like I was so confused on the name of the brewery. I'm like, why is the name of the brewery Public Coast when the hotel is Surf Sand Resort and the Stephanie Inn and like all these other different brands, right? And the owner explained the story behind the brewery's name, which Public Coast ties into. Like he told me this whole story of the Oregon coast is public, 362 miles. Not one piece of land is owned by an individual person, hence why it's called Public Coast. And anyways, he made that story so simple to tell and kind of gave a backstory into like some dates and times and history from Oregon. And anyways, long story short was that as a staff member, as an employee, I was able to share that story and communicate it well to the guest. And that's where I think, people that stay with the Storied Collection, people that stay with the Sextant property, they're going to have that ability to become, what's the term, from fan to like a super fan, like, right? They're going to become part of your,
like an ambassador for the brand.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's going to be playing a huge crucial role because they're going to have more than just a, I stayed in a castle. They're going to have a memory tied to it. They're going to have an emotion, a feeling, and usually something to add on to it.
Yeah. To touch back on the train piece, I think given the world's turn towards sustainability and everything, I think there's going to be your eco travel conscious people that will opt for trains and traveling to areas nearby them for a period of time. I think at some point when they've seen a lot that they could explore in their neighborhoods, they might get back on planes again. But I do think it's going to be a trend over the next few years for sure with with train travel and overnight trains being more eco-conscious, eco-friendly.
Yeah, that's part of the article. It talks about, I think that a lot of things in this article or in this whole magazine about the future of travel, some of it's very lofty, and I think I don't know how realistic, and I don't know if one of the reasons why incredibly rich people want to take this expensive car is like to reduce their carbon footprint. I mean, I think that sounds nice
They get on their private jet, right?
Yeah, but it's funny because then a couple pages later, they talk about the future of aviation and all of these like sustainable airplanes, and I'm just like, I feel like that technology is not within the next couple years, like they're trying to make it seem. I mean, I'd love to be surprised, but yeah, I think for the masses, if you're taking just like a normal train, I think train travel is becoming more popular. Like anecdotally, here in South Florida, we have the Bright Line, and so you can go, Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, soon to be Orlando, and it's a great experience. So yeah, it will be interesting to kind of see how that evolves over the next couple of years.
I was gonna say, do you think this is for both of you too? I think, do you guys, with the experience we've all had with flying recently, supermassive delays, lost luggage, extremely like price gouging tickets for, excuse my language, shitty airlines like Spirit or Frontier, or even like United's, it's like jacking up their prices insanely. That's not even worth it, in my opinion. So screw you, United. Just kidding. Don't hurt me. But
they're not going to sponsor us now, Will.
I know. It's because we want Delta. We want Delta in the last.
That's right. I was about to say that there's an easy solution to all this. Just get on Delta instead.
Get on Delta. Yeah, pay like $2,000 a ticket for a 2-hour flight. But anyways,
do you think with these like minute, plan ahead? It's the moral of the story.
Okay. And we won't go into that. But I was gonna say, do you guys think like this horrible experience that people are experiencing with it, and obviously gas is going up, so like that drive to destination idea maybe comes a little less exciting? Do you think this experience behind it is kind of pushing people more towards these unique travel stays, whether it's a train or a castle or a tree house or maybe even a like a converted van? Do you think that's pushing people towards this? Do you think it's just naturally been the course since COVID? What do you think is really the big driver behind this trend of unique stays and destination properties, rather than the earlier? Oh, sorry, not to ramble, but like AirDNA went off of Brian's statement on more people are traveling to Austin, Texas than they are to Barcelona. So like proving this statement through the data. But do you think there's big drive? Anyways, I'll stop talking.
Brandy, you want to go first?
Well, I think when it comes to European travel or just, international travel right now, it's such a great, your dollar goes so much further. So it's a great time to go. If you, couldn't rent a castle before, now's a great time to go do that. And then domestically, I still think that the drive to unique experiences are still a thing. Like it's still, if you have a potato that's within driving distance that you can stay in, and that's still appealing. I think it's just like with everything in the last couple of years, I have no idea what's safe to say is a real trend, because it seems like you might have this thesis and then in a couple of months it just gets totally blown apart. So I think it'll take a little while and we'll be able to look back at kind of this chunk of maybe like 3 to 5 years and actually see what the real trends are.
Yeah, I think part of the shift is the focus or popularity of social media, and going to the beach and staying in a kind of dumpy 2-bedroom condo isn't as Instagrammable as going into the mountains and having a whatever palatial estate for yourself. And then, in terms of people that don't just go to the same beach every year for 7 days, I do think the gas prices and the airline prices drive people to stay places longer, as well as the work from home trend. And when you do the math on, I could go rent out a castle in England for a week, or I could take my family to Disney and it's the same price, go to a Disney castle or go to a real castle, the math kind of will drive you to go stay in a real one. So it's definitely a combination of economic pressures, but also how Instagram has influenced people's travel in a very different way than what might logically make sense, but people love doing it for a few likes.
Yeah, I mean, if
Say
you're gonna
even-
spend all that money, you might as well get some, some likes. So
Yeah. Well, I think not even Instagram, if you look at like TikTok and how much that's blown up, and not to call out like certain companies, but I see Avant Stay, I've seen a bunch of other brands within our space on TikTok and doing pretty well made videos that are highlighting these property types that are destination like, right? And so I think there's with this microform content, being in the content world myself, like understanding like this is where a lot of people are going. YouTube just did a huge update on their shorts algorithm and platform for creators and how it all works. And long story short, they're driving a lot of traffic organically, which has been crazy because people are just consuming that. And we've seen like there was even who was it that put out the statement, if any like younger generation, most likely, if I would say probably from let's say 35 down, would be if Netflix is on and they're not captivated by it and they're more captivated by their phone, they're going to turn off Netflix and they're going to go to what's on their phone. And I think that has a big play in all this too. So
I haven't succumbed to TikTok yet. I'm really resisting.
Yep, same.
Well, you're just seeing all the
Will's a lot younger, Brandy. You're almost in your 30s. You're
I
almost in your
know.
30s.
I'm not that much younger, guys. Gosh.
It's generational.
Yeah. It's definitely age bias, I guess, but whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I also think like Airbnb is going pretty heavy into categories and not to like use them as kind of like the cornerstone for everything, but with them shifting that whole homepage based off of a browsing type like experience where you can browse and be inspired by a property rather than the destination itself, has a lot to say for how kind of people are looking at travel in general right now.
Yeah, they're doing some great marketing for us. We appreciate it, Airbnb team. Keep doing it. There's a quote of there's only two ways to make money in business. One is to bundle and another is to unbundle. So we view ourselves as an unbundled version of Castle segment of Airbnb.
That's too good. Well, when's the launch, by the way? When do you guys go live, go public? Is that
maybe tomorrow? So only people listening know that it is
Wow.
officially getting out. But yeah,
we've only hinted at it a few times throughout the episode.
Yeah, maybe not. Go follow Storied Collection on Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever. We appreciate it, the support, and help us spread the word.
Well, now you have to get a TikTok. So
I think they do.
We've got a marketing firm that has built one, yeah, but I refuse to download.
You're not going to do the TikTok, Michael?
We want to see you do a trendy dance with all the cool kids. Yeah,
we'll get a dance together at some point. But it's going to probably be more like a Bridgerton dance than a.
As I say, I think the Book Direct show, the three of us, we're gonna have to make a TikTok. I think that's.
Oh my god.
Give
me a couple cocktails and then we'll see.
Couple espresso martinis coming right up. There we go.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, good episode today. I would say for all of our live viewers, we had a couple of you say good morning and all that good stuff. So shout out to Brian and Tim for tuning in live. It looks like on LinkedIn. And if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to everything Good Morning Hospitality on your favorite social media platforms and or podcasting platforms. And we'll see you all again next week. Bye.